Tonight, we travel not into glory, but into grime. Not to the grand villas of senators or the marbled halls of emperors, but down to the cracked stone alleys of Transtiberum, where the air is thick with smoke, sweat, and something vaguely resembling fish sauce, where rats outnumber neighbors, and your greatest luxury is surviving the week without stepping in something you can't name. Ancient Rome, mighty, vast, eternal. But you're not here to bask in triumphal parades or sip wine with Cicero. No, you are here as most Romans lived and died, unknown, unclean, and unlucky. You're a shadow at the edge of the empire's glory, just another back-aching body in the heartbeat of the city. And this week, we follow your every breath, every bruise, every mouthful of gritty bread, every squatting moment in a public latrine. Don't worry, you won't be alone. The streets will whisper your name, not in admiration, but because you owe the baker 3 denarii and he's getting suspicious. The city of Rome stands eternal. But you're just trying to make it to Saturday. And as you lie still now, the world around you fades. Let the sounds of clanging iron, distant sandals, and shouted Latin curses dissolve into a slow rhythm. Close your eyes, slow your breath, and step quietly into the shadows of history. You're not just visiting ancient Rome. You are it. You are 23, or maybe 27. You don't remember exactly. No one kept track, not for people like you. You were born in a room above a fish stall, and the first thing you ever smelled was garum and fire smoke. You never stopped smelling it. You live on the 6th floor of an insula, a rickety tenement block stacked high above the slums of Transtiberum. The walls sweat in summer and crumble in the rain. Your ceiling groans when your upstairs neighbor turns over in his straw mat. And once, part of the roof fell during a storm and crushed a sleeping cat. No one cleaned it up. Your room is just wide enough for a mat, a jar of water, and a blanket that used to belong to someone richer, then someone poorer, and now you. The air is always damp. Sometimes it smells like mold, sometimes like urine, always like smoke from the bakeries below. You are poor, not tragically so, but forgettably so. You are not a beggar, not yet, but you are a step and a half above him. You have a job most days. You carry lime for plasterers, or crates for wine merchants, or buckets for men who don't want to carry their own filth to the street drain. Your hands are hard, your knees ache, and your back has bent before your spirit did. You wear a tunic that once was off-white. It clings to your body when it rains and turns stiff when it dries. Your belt is frayed rope. Your sandals used to belong to your older brother before he stepped on a rusty nail and died with a fever no doctor cared to name. You eat what you can buy. Mostly barley bread, sometimes figs, rarely meat. You drink water only when it's cloudy enough to hide the worms. Otherwise, you drink the weak wine that makes you forget you're still thirsty. You do not dream of greatness. You dream of not falling down the stairs in the dark, of your neighbor not stealing your shoes, of the city not catching fire again. You are a citizen of Rome, not by right, by proximity. And as the sun begins to rise again over the chipped rooftops, you pull your blanket tighter, knowing that today, like yesterday, you will be forgotten by everyone, except the heat, the flies, and your own hunger. You wake up to the sound of dripping water and the soft scurry of mice across the wooden beams above you. The blanket wrapped around your legs is damp again. It always is this time of year. The humidity creeps in through the cracked shutters, clings to the stone walls, settles into the straw beneath your mat, and into your bones. The air smells like old smoke, sweat, and a faint undercurrent of something rotting in the stairwell. Someone must have dropped a loaf or left a fish head behind again. You breathe through your mouth. It doesn't help. Your eyes adjust slowly to the dull blue of early morning. The window in your room is no more than a jagged opening with a cloth nailed across it. Light trickles through in uneven patches. The sun hasn't risen high enough to cut through the soot caked on every wall, but it tries. You sit up carefully. The floor is uneven. The wood groans. You've memorized exactly where to place your foot first to avoid the loose plank that once split open and nearly swallowed your toes. You stretch. Your shoulders crack. Your back stiffens in protest. You're 20-something, but your joints mutter as if they've lived through a dozen wars. The chill in the air wraps around your spine like a wet rope. There's no basin in your room. There's no water jug unless you remembered to refill it last night, which you didn't. You scrape together your tunic and belt and make your way down the stairs. All 6 flights of them. The wood is dark with age and piss. Each step holds a different scent. Some sharp, some sour, some ancient. On the second floor, someone has vomited in the corner. It's not fresh, but the heat has brought it back to life. Flies dance lazily around it. You move past, nose turned. At the ground level, the world opens. Not to relief, but to chaos. The alley is already alive. Vendors shouting, wheels grinding, chickens shrieking. You push through it all, ducking under laundry lines, stepping over sleeping dogs until you reach the bathhouse latrines. They're public, of course. Everything is. Privacy is a luxury carved into marble far from here. The latrine is a long stone bench with keyhole-shaped holes spaced shoulder to shoulder. Beneath it runs a shallow stream of wastewater. You do not linger. You do not breathe too deeply. You find a spot. You squat. There is a communal sponge on a stick soaking in a bucket of murky vinegar water. It has been used too many times to count. Its shape is worn, its edges frayed like an old brush. You use it anyway. Everyone does. What choice do you have? When you're done, you dip your hands into the same water. There is no soap, only habit. You wipe them on your tunic and pretend it's enough. Your stomach growls. Your teeth ache. You haven't seen a dentist in your life. The molar on your left side is cracked, and it slices your tongue when you chew too fast. You run your tongue across it now. It's still there, still sharp. You rinse your face with water from a cracked basin beside the bathhouse wall. The water is cold and slightly greasy. You don't question what's floating in it. You splash it on your face. It smells like iron. You do not brush your teeth. You chew on a twig, scrape the edges, spit into the gutter, and keep walking. A boy runs past you barefoot, laughing, holding half a pomegranate. A woman dumps a chamber pot into the alley behind him. The splash follows his laughter like punctuation. You breathe in. The sun is rising higher now. The shadows shrink. The city does not wake up. It never slept. Rome breathes around you, hot, loud, sour, and magnificent. And you, freshly washed by its filth, are ready for another day you're not sure you'll survive. By the time you leave the latrines, the alley has begun to sweat. The heat slides slowly down the stone walls, turning the dust on the ground into paste beneath your sandals. The air smells like it always does: charred barley, sour wine, and yesterday's garbage baking in the sun. Your stomach grumbles again. Loud, insistent animal. You know exactly where to go. Not because it's good, but because it's cheap. The bread stall at the corner of Vicus Tuscus, and nothing. There's no sign. Just a man with burned hands and a pile of dark, stone-hard loaves stacked like bricks. You pick the smallest one that still has shape. It costs almost everything in your pocket. Not much, just a few worn coppers from hauling crates yesterday. The baker barely looks at you. His eyes are already glazed from the heat of his oven, his skin glazed from the sweat of the fire. You bite in. The crust cracks like a pebble, and inside the dough is dense, sour, dry. You chew slowly, not because you want to savor it, but because your molars can't break it any faster. You stop midway to spit out a small shard of something white and sharp. It's not a bone. It's stone. Again. The grain was ground with hand mills made of volcanic rock. Every bite is a gamble between barley and basalt. Your gums have bled before. They probably will again. Still, it's food. You walk and chew. The streets are loud with sandals and curses. Someone sings. Someone screams. Someone begs. You pass them all. At the next corner, you stop at a small stall made of broken crates and a sheet of linen. The smell here is stronger. Fish, but not fresh. Fermented, dark, oozing from clay jars left too long in the sun. Garum. You nod. The vendor dips a sliver of dried bread into a small bowl and hands it to you. You eat it in one bite. The flavor hits like a slap. Salt, rot, and a strange sweetness that crawls up your nose. It burns your throat. Your eyes water. You chase it with a swig of watered wine from your pouch. The mixture swirls in your belly like a mistake, but your stomach thanks you anyway. Garum is what the rich eat on roasted meat, on warm, white bread. You get it smeared on old crusts. The flavor is the same, but the dignity isn't. You pass a fruit seller who's shouting about his figs. They're wrinkled, split open, buzzing with flies. You stare for too long, and he stares back. You walk on. A boy nearby peels a boiled egg. The smell follows you, sharp and sulfurous. You haven't tasted egg in 3 weeks. Your stomach twists at the memory. You take your last bite of bread slowly. It's become soft from your spit and the heat. Your jaw aches. You swallow hard, and it lodges halfway down before sliding the rest of the way on a gulp of wine. Your breakfast is done. 2 bites of bread, a smear of rotting fish sauce, and the aftertaste of regret. It's more than most get. You wipe your hands on your tunic. The fabric crunches with old stains and dried wine. It doesn't matter. No one looks clean in your street. Somewhere behind you a door slams. A dog barks. A child coughs. The sun has fully risen now. The shadows have nowhere to hide. You lick your teeth. They taste like ash and iron. And with nothing left to eat, you step into the city like prey. You earn your living with your spine, not your mind, not your name, not a skill that can be written or carved into a stone ledger. Just your back, your shoulders, your hands, and whatever is left of your will by the time the sun reaches its peak. Today, like most days, you are a carrier, a beast without fur, a mule in sandals. The contractor waits at the usual spot, a shaded corner near the forum, where dust and politics swirl together like vinegar and oil. He doesn't speak, he gestures. You follow. You don't need instructions. You've done this before. The crates are stacked like teeth in a merchant's warehouse, each one stained and swelling with the smell of fermented goods. Olive oil, pickled cabbage, jars of spoiled wine, dried fish packed in ashes. You lift the first one, wedge it against your hip, and move. The path is uneven. Your sandals slip on the stone where moss has grown between the cracks. Each crate weighs more than it should. The ropes dig into your palms. Your arms burn by the second trip. Your breath grows ragged by the third. But you do not stop. The delivery point is uphill. Always uphill. Past the tanners where the air changes. The leather workers boil skins in vats of lye, and the stench claws at your throat. You hold your breath. It never helps. Children play nearby. One throws a pebble that hits your foot. You don't look back. You can't afford to lose your balance. By the 6th trip, your tunic clings to your ribs. Your legs feel hollow. Your hands are trembling. The last crate you carry is smaller, but not lighter. It's filled with amphorae, long, narrow jars sealed with wax. You feel one shift as you walk. You hold your breath. If it breaks, you pay. When you're done, no one thanks you. The contractor tosses 2 bronze coins into your palm, enough for stale bread and nothing else. You nod. You walk away. The sweat on your back turns cold. Your body shakes. On the way back, you pass other workers, painters, masons, laborers like you. Their eyes are sunken. Their shoulders slope. You all move with the same gait, slow, deliberate, as if time itself were watching and waiting to see who falls first. At the corner, near the bakery, a man collapses. No one runs to help. They step around him. He twitches once, then again, then doesn't. You look away. Back near your building, you see a group of slaves scrubbing the entry to a nobleman's atrium. They use sand and vinegar. Their hands are red and raw. One has lost a fingernail. He keeps scrubbing. You know that tomorrow, if there's no cargo to carry, you will offer to help sweep the latrines, or haul bricks, or dig ditches for the city's endless repairs. Your hands are not made for craft. You don't shape clay. You don't write scrolls. You don't sing. You move what others don't want to lift. And when your back gives out, they will lift you instead, only long enough to clear the street. You return to your insula just before the sun begins to bend. You sit on the stair because you don't trust your legs to carry you all the way up yet. You look at your palms. The rope has left welts. You close your eyes for a moment. The city roars around you. You earned 2 coins. You spent 10 years of your bones. And tomorrow, if you're lucky, you'll do it again. You share your life with walls, not people. The insula you live in is full. Bodies stacked like crates, lives pressed thin between wooden beams and stone. You know your neighbors by the sounds they make, not their names. You hear them more than you see them. On the floor below, a woman wails in her sleep. Every night, sometimes twice. No one asks why anymore. No one knocks. Next door, a boy coughs. Wet, ragged, the kind of cough that doesn't leave. He's been coughing for a month, maybe 2. The walls remember better than you do. At dusk, you make your way up the stairs, passing a man coming down with an empty bucket. You nod. He doesn't nod back. He's missing 3 teeth and most of his hope. You used to speak to him once, before his daughter died of something no priest could name. Your door doesn't lock. None of them do. But there's an understanding, unspoken boundaries, shared silence. Inside, your brother sits on the mat. His leg was crushed by a cart last winter. It never healed right. Now it bends sideways. He doesn't move much. He watches the shadows crawl across the ceiling, hour by hour, like a prisoner counting time on a wall. You think he's forgetting how to speak. You place the bread beside him. You don't divide it. You don't need to. He eats slowly, using both hands. He leaves you the burnt end. You eat it anyway. From the street below, voices rise, sharper now. Arguments about a borrowed knife, about spilled oil, about who owes whom what. The voices belong to people you've known for years and never truly met. A girl passes your doorway. Her feet are bare. She used to wear a red ribbon in her hair. Now she carries jars for her father, who drinks more than he works. She avoids eye contact with everyone, including you. You once helped an old man down the stairs when the steps iced over in winter. He gave you half a fig. He died 2 weeks later. Now his room is empty, but not quiet. Sometimes you meet strangers in the bathhouse, men with coins in their fists and vinegar in their eyes. They smell cleaner than you, but carry something heavier in their posture. They don't speak. You don't ask. Occasionally, on the street, a nobleman's litter passes by, carried high by slaves veiled in linen. Perfume spills into the air like a mockery. You hold your breath, not in awe, but in envy. Just once you'd like to forget how sweat smells. At the water fountain, you nod to the washerwoman who scrubs blood from tunics with stones. Her hands are cracked, her arms strong. She has 3 sons and never raises her voice. You wish you could be like her. You're not. Later, back in your room, your brother sleeps again, or maybe pretends to. You sit with your back to the wall, knees pulled up, and listen. To the neighbors fight, to a child cry, to the city exhale. You are surrounded by people, and yet Rome is the loneliest crowd you've ever known. Your skin itches again. It started 3 nights ago. A prickling sensation along your forearms and the back of your neck, as if ants were crawling just beneath the skin. You scratched until it bled. Now, small scabs have formed in crooked patterns. You think it might be from the laundry water, or the mold in your ceiling, or the flies, or maybe something else. You don't know. You never do. Your stomach has turned against you. The bread from this morning has not sat well. Maybe it was the garum. Maybe it was the wine. Maybe it was the oil that looked more gray than yellow. Your insides cramp and tighten like a rope pulled too hard. But you can't afford rest. Pain has never been a reason to stop. You've lost weight again, not by choice. Your tunic hangs looser. Your belt cinches tighter. Your bones press against the cloth like they're trying to remember what it feels like to be bare. You feel cold even when the sun blisters the pavement. You try to sleep at night, but the fever hums just under your skin, a low fire that never fully burns. Your dreams are strange, full of rivers, teeth, and dogs that speak with human voices. You wake with your jaw clenched and the taste of blood on your tongue. Someone nearby has died. You know it by the smell. Death has its own weight in the air, heavier than rot, thicker than wine. It settles into your lungs and stays. No one says anything, no one moves the body until the landlord complains. And even then, only if the flies become unbearable. A rumor spreads. Fever in the tannery district. Or was it the port? No one knows. No one cares. You hear whispers about swollen necks, blackened fingers, priests who cough blood into their sleeves. You stay away, but the wind carries everything, even death. There's talk of war again. Not here, far away, somewhere in Gaul, or the east, or across the sea. But when war stirs, the city tightens. Taxes rise, food shortens, soldiers fill the streets. The poor vanish in silence, conscripted or condemned. A boy from your alley disappeared last week. 15 years old, strong legs, quiet eyes. They say he joined a legion for bread and copper, or maybe he was taken. No one knows. His mother still leaves a piece of fruit by the doorway just in case. Your jaw aches again. That cracked molar flares with every bite. The pain travels up your temple and down your neck. You have no coin for a physician. Even if you did, you wouldn't waste it. Roman medicine is herbs, prayers, and guesses. More men die from the cure than the illness. You've bled from your nose 3 times this week. Thick, dark, not like usual. You do not tell anyone. You wipe it with your sleeve and pretend it didn't happen. The gods are quiet, the temples are full. Offerings of barley and honey cake lie beside marble altars. You walk past them. Your prayers have grown thin. You are not dying. You are surviving. But every day, the line between the two feels smaller. The festival begins before the sun has finished climbing. You hear it first, drums made from stretched goat skin, the metallic clash of cymbals, the shouts of priests high on devotion and wine. The air carries incense that burns the back of your throat, thick and sticky with spice and smoke. Today is a feast for the dead. The streets are draped in garlands, not fresh flowers but strings of dry leaves, dyed red and orange to mimic life. At the crossroads, small fires burn beside statues of strange gods with wild eyes and too many limbs. People leave bowls of porridge, blood, and bits of bone at their feet. You do the same. A sliver of bread, burnt at the edge. It's all you can spare. They say the dead walk today, not in robes and sandals, but as shadows, quiet and cold, slipping through the cracks between doors and dreams. If you don't feed them, they whisper your name into the ears of hungry spirits. You don't know if it's true, but you don't risk it. At noon, the streets swell with bodies. Not ghosts, but drunk men painted like satyrs. Women howling hymns to Bacchus. Their mouths stained purple with cheap wine and their eyes wild with borrowed freedom. This is a holy day, which means nothing is sacred. A man in goat horns chases a girl with a whip made of oxhide. She screams, not from fear, but from ritual. It's supposed to bring fertility, or luck, or both. You don't ask. At the temple steps, a pig is slaughtered. The priest cuts its throat and lets the blood run down the stone. The crowd cheers. You stand in the back, shoulder to shoulder with men who haven't bathed since last moon. A drop of blood lands on your toe. You say nothing. Maybe it's good luck. You once watched a woman bury her husband with his favorite sandals, a flute, and a carved ivory comb. The sandals were stolen that same night. The comb turned up 3 days later in the hair of a baker's wife. The flute never played again. No one was surprised. The dead are honored, but not protected. At night, you light a candle and place it in the window. Not because you believe, but because the neighbor who didn't was found with scratch marks on her door the next morning. No one saw anything. But the marks were deep, as if made by claws. You once heard of a man who forgot to whisper the names of his ancestors before eating during the Parentalia feast. That night, his house caught fire. His dog howled at an empty room for hours before dying. Or so the story goes. Rome is filled with stories. Statues that weep, wells that curse, alley cats that steal breath from babies, gods who listen when you sleep and forget you when you wake. There are gods for doors, gods for hinges, gods for fever, gods for mold. You pray not out of faith, but exhaustion. You make gestures in the air to ward off curses you don't believe in. You spit over your shoulder at funerals. You tie red thread around your wrist and never ask why. You once saw a priestess eat ash and honey to predict the future. She vomited on her own feet and declared the crops would fail. They did. You've walked under arches built for the gods, only to sleep under roofs that leak. The sacred and the filth live side by side here. And on days like today, when the lines between the world of the living and the dead blur just enough to make you shiver, you wonder which side of the line you're really on. By the time the sun surrenders behind the rooftops, the city doesn't grow quiet, it shifts. The loud becomes low. The fast becomes slow. The clamor of carts gives way to the murmur of bowls being scraped, coins being counted, bruises being rubbed with vinegar and resignation. You're back in your room. The stairs fought you every step of the way. Your legs feel like rope soaked in river water. Heavy, fraying, done. The 6th floor creaks with every breath of wind. Your ceiling leaks in places even when it doesn't rain. And tonight, the air carries with it the scent of boiled cabbage, burning oil, and something vaguely sweet, as if someone below tried to toast a fig and forgot. Your brother sits in silence. Same spot, same expression. He hasn't spoken in 2 days. He hasn't needed to. You can hear his breathing. You can count it. Dinner, if it can be called that, is a shallow bowl of lentil mush. No meat, no herbs, just what the market seller swept off the bottom of the barrel. The lentils are half cooked, some still hard, others melting into paste. You eat them slowly, not for flavor, but to stretch time. 1 spoonful, then another, then none. There's a piece of bread left, dry, cracked, older than it should be. You soak it in the mush. It softens enough to chew. Barely. Your brother doesn't finish his portion. You don't ask why. You slide the bowl toward yourself when he looks away. Hunger trumps pride. Outside, the city exhales through its cracks. Laughter from a nearby window. Sharp, high, hollow. Somewhere below, a woman sings. Not well, but sincerely. And far away, a baby cries without rhythm, the kind of cry that doesn't expect comfort. You shift on your mat, adjusting your body to avoid the splinters that have begun poking through the worn fabric. The straw beneath it crunches. You close your eyes for a moment, but the wood above you groans, a weight too heavy, a neighbor too careless. The ceiling trembles, then settles. You don't bathe. There's no water left. And the thought of returning to the bathhouse, the press of flesh, the stink of steam, the cold slap of strangers' towels, exhausts you more than it tempts you. Instead, you wipe your face with the edge of your tunic. The salt of the day smears across your cheeks like war paint. You lie down slowly, careful not to wake the sores on your back. Your bones feel closer to the surface than they did this morning. Your eyelids burn. Not from tiredness, from the smoke that crept in during dinner from someone's overfed fire below. You turn your face toward the wall. It's cold tonight. the kind of cold that doesn't bite but clings. From the window slit, the moonlight spills in. Not silver, not soft, just pale, like washed-out parchment. You count the stars through the cloth, 3, maybe 4. The rest are lost behind soot and the breath of Rome itself. There is no pillow, just your arm. There is no blanket, just whatever warmth your thin body can generate and trap. There are no dreams, only memories that don't belong to you anymore. And as you finally begin to drift, past the pain, past the hunger, past the wooden beams whispering in the wind, you wonder, is this sleep? Or just another small death you've gotten used to surviving? You are still. Not quite asleep. Not quite awake. Your body rests, but something in you stirs. A thin thread of thought that drifts like smoke through the cracks of your room, curling into corners untouched by daylight. You dream, not of glory or riches or villas with marble floors. You dream small, but in Rome, even small dreams are dangerous. You dream of bread without stone, of waking up without pain in your back, of water that runs clear, not brown, of streets that smell like rain, not piss, of air that tastes like nothing, not fish, not fire, not the inside of someone else's mouth. You dream of a bed that doesn't fold under your weight, of sandals that fit, of a day that ends with more coin than it began with. You dream of hearing your name said with kindness, not demand, of seeing your brother stand again, just once, even if only in a dream, of watching him walk outside and not return wheezing from the smoke. Sometimes your dreams betray you. They give you things you'll never have, like figs, soft and bursting with sweetness, or roasted lamb, steaming in your hands, or a woman who looks at you and doesn't flinch. In your dream, you sit by the Tiber, toes in the water, a breeze cool against your face. There's no stench, no shouting, no one bleeding on the steps behind you, just wind, just silence, just peace. You believe in gods when you sleep, not the carved stone ones, heavy with incense and priestly approval, but quiet gods, the kind that visit poor men in dreams, whispering, "I see you." You want to believe they hear you when you mutter thanks for surviving another day. You want to believe that survival is enough. But some nights, like this one, you want more. Not riches, not fame, just rest. Just 1 week without fear. Just one morning where your first thought isn't, "What will hurt today?" You don't dream of escaping Rome. You dream of making peace with it, and maybe, if the gods are kind, of being remembered. Not with statues, not with songs, but with one name, scratched into one wall by one person who knew you were real, even if that person is you. The rains came early this year. Not a gentle rain, not the kind that washes the dust off rooftops or cools the backs of tired laborers. This was the kind that falls sideways, stings your skin, and turns alleyways into rivers of filth. You woke to the sound of dripping. Not outside, but inside. A slow, steady beat against the corner of your mat. The ceiling had given up again. By midday, the lower floors of your insula had begun to flood. Not with clean rainwater, but with the runoff of a city without drains. Waste, ash, and the ghosts of last week's food floated past like soft warnings. The smell reached your floor before the water did. The baker, 2 doors down, lost his oven. The fire hissed and died. He stood barefoot in the sludge, his apron soaked in flour and regret. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. For 3 days, no bread was made. By the second day, the fruit sellers were gone. By the third, the water turned yellow. Your brother coughed harder now. Not the dry cough of a dusty day, but wet from deep inside. It rattled his chest like coins in a jar. He didn't eat the lentils you brought. He didn't even look at them. You pressed the bowl into his hand. It tipped. He didn't notice. You didn't say a word. Just cleaned the spill with the same cloth you used to wipe your face. The landlord said nothing. Just looked at the walls. If they cracked, He'd evict you before they fell. Cheaper to remove the living than rebuild for the dying. In the alley, a child was found behind the bakery. She couldn't have been more than 5. No one knew her name. No one claimed her. She was wrapped in a blanket that hadn't seen soap in months. They left her there overnight. By morning, the rats had found her. The washerwoman tried to scare them off. She waved a broom and shouted prayers. Someone laughed. Then someone else cried. The two sounds were almost the same. You stayed upstairs that day. You had no appetite, no strength, just a fever climbing your spine and a fear you couldn't name. That night you dreamed of rivers, dark ones, deep ones. Your brother wheezed beside you, shallow and distant, like someone lost behind a curtain. You whispered his name, not to wake him, just to remind yourself that he was still there. The sound hung in the air like a question the room wouldn't answer. Outside, the city moaned beneath the weight of its own history. Inside, you waited for the rain to stop. It didn't. Evening returns, not with rest, but with resignation. The sky fades from copper to ash. The streets shrink as shadows stretch long between the buildings. Fewer voices now, fewer footsteps. Just the scraping of wooden shutters and the soft click of clay jars being lowered from windows with fraying rope. You carry nothing in your hands. No bundle, no coin. Just the weight of a day that demanded more than you had and still expects you to rise again tomorrow. Your tunic sticks to your back, damp. Your feet sting where the leather straps rubbed skin raw. You smell of smoke, oil, and the sour sheen of old wine that spilled from a broken amphora you cleaned earlier. The scent follows you like a second shadow. At the base of your insula, the water has begun to recede, but the mud remains, thick, clinging, silent. You climb the stairs slowly, one hand on the wall. You count each level by the heat in your thighs, by the burn in your breath. On the 5th floor, a woman sings a lullaby that doesn't rhyme. On the 4th, someone sharpens a blade against stone. On the 3rd, you hear coughing. Not your brother's, someone else's. Rougher. By the 6th, you stop. Not from exhaustion, but from the sudden stillness. The quiet. The air in front of your door doesn't move. You step in. The room is dark, save for the last light bleeding in through the cloth-covered window. Your brother is curled in his corner. His chest rises, then falls. Slow, shallow, but steady. You exhale. You take off your belt, your sandals. You sit. You do not speak. You do not need to. This silence has become its own kind of comfort. You dip your fingers into a cracked cup of water and wipe your face. It's barely cool, but it softens the grime. You rinse your hands, rub them dry against your thighs. The cloth carries old stains. You no longer remember what they came from. Outside, a dog howls. Farther off, metal clangs. A gate closed too hard. Then nothing. You eat the last of the lentils. Just a few. Cold now. You chew slowly, not for flavor, but for rhythm. You lie down. The straw mat welcomes you with its usual scratch and creak. You adjust your shoulder until it stops aching. You turn your head toward the wall, the one without the crack, the one that feels less like it might collapse. You listen to your brother breathe, and for the first time in days, you do not feel cold. Not warm, but not cold. The kind of in-between that feels almost like peace. And before sleep claims you again, before dreams return with their strange truths and impossible comforts, you allow yourself one simple thought. You're still here. Not better, not safer, but still here. Tonight, you don't dream. Not of rivers, not of fire, not of figs you'll never eat. You lie still. The kind of stillness that comes after the body gives up asking for more. The city outside murmurs in its sleep. A flicker of footsteps, a cough behind a wall, the soft clatter of pottery knocked over by a breeze. Rome does not rest, but tonight it forgets you for a while. And in that forgetting, you begin to remember. Not memories, exactly, but moments, thin as thread, buried between the cracks of time. You remember the weight of your brother's head on your lap when he was small. You remember the time you found a coin in the gutter and bought a pear so ripe it collapsed in your hands before you could bite. You remember how silence feels different when it's shared. And now, lying in this room that sways with every gust of wind, under a roof that might collapse tomorrow, you wonder, will anything of you remain? There is no statue waiting to be carved, no son to carry your name, no story worth repeating in the forum, no graffiti etched on the wall behind the bathhouse whispering, "You were here." You are not the kind they write scrolls about. You are the kind history forgets. And yet, there is a part of you, small, quiet, almost foolish, that dares to believe otherwise. That maybe, somewhere in the dust of centuries yet to come, someone will wonder what it felt like to live a life like yours. To carry stone, to bleed from cracked bread, to survive by inches, day by day without song or statue. Maybe that is enough, to be real, even just once, even just for yourself. The night deepens. The walls breathe slowly beside you. The city, once thunderous, has slipped into murmurs, distant, layered, muffled by the weight of stone and centuries. You lie on your side, back curved, knees drawn up like you did when you were a child, or at least how you think you did. The straw beneath you creaks as if it, too, remembers. Your brother shifts. A dry rustle. His breath is faint but there, still there. A small comfort, a silent vow. You close your eyes and let the moment stay untouched. Outside the window, the moon climbs. It has watched over empires and ashes, over emperors and exiles. Tonight, it watches over you, not because you matter, but because you exist. Somewhere in the alley, a dog growls, then quiets. Water drips from a cracked jug. Wind brushes across the roof like fingers over an old wound. And in the quiet, between all things, something begins to loosen inside you. The ache in your back, the fire in your jaw, the fear behind your ribs, they soften. Just a little. Just enough. You are not safe. You are not whole. You are not known. But you are real. And in this room of shadows, in this breathless city of stone and sweat and forgotten names, you fall asleep. No one remembers your face, but the floor remembers your steps. The walls remember your cough. The sky, maybe, remembers your breath. And somewhere, far beyond the baths, the gods, the graffiti. Time folds gently around your name. It does not speak it, but it does not forget.